The Mazda 6 has just had its 20th birthday. Not this generation version, although it has been around for more than a decade. It launched in 2012, this shape model. And look, I think it still offers a fair bit of appeal if you are looking for a car, not an SUV or a ute. In this review, I'm going to tell you all about it, including about this one here. It's the 20th anniversary edition, which adds some nice stuff on the outside and on the inside, but it's not my pick of the range. Stay tuned and you'll find out which one is. There are 5 different versions of the Mazda 6 available, including sedan and wagon models, and honestly that's probably too many in 2023 when people really aren't buying cars anymore. So there's the entry-level versions, the G25 Sport and Touring. They're both very nice cars and they're pretty attractively priced, 35 to 42 grand or thereabouts. But the version of the Mazda 6 that you probably want is the G35. It gets the more powerful, punchy 2.5 litre turbo petrol engine, and it would definitely be my pick. In fact, my pick of the range would be the G35 GT SP wagon. I think that is the right mix of, well, features and pricing. This one here is the hero model in the range though. It's the new 20th anniversary edition, obviously celebrating 20 years of the Mazda 6 nameplate, and it does have a bunch of stuff on the inside that make it feel a bit more special, including a fake suede trim and some embossing on the headrests. Plus there are 20th anniversary badges as well, and this bright silver metallic looking finish on the grille and on the wheels as well. I'm not so sure that it's worth $55,000 or thereabouts, but at least you do get, as standard, this lovely rhodium white color or artisan red, which looks fantastic, especially on the wagon. If you're looking for a car that's about this size and about this price, there aren't actually that many options for you because the mid to large size sedan and wagon segment has dwindled over the years. But there are still some really good alternatives to this car, including the Toyota Camry, which only comes as a sedan, but it does come with hybrid powertrains that are super duper efficient, and it's a really, really nice car to drive. Don't underestimate the Camry just because it's a Camry, because it's really quite good. The other car that you might want to consider is the Skoda Octavia. Now it comes as a sedan or a wagon, and there's a sporty RS version as well. Now I lived with one of those for 6 months or so when I was working at Cars Guide. Hit the link up there and it'll take you to my video review of that car. It was very good in a lot of ways, but it had some serious tech issues that really frustrated me over my time with it, but maybe they've resolved them by now. However, I think it's a pretty good option if that's what you're after. For more than a decade, this has been one of the most attractive mid-size models on the market, sedan or wagon in my opinion, and it's still got that weird quirk that the sedan is actually a little bit longer than the wagon. It's also got a longer wheelbase as well, so that means that the backseat space in the sedan is actually a bit better in terms of legroom. Anyway, now let's check out the boot because there's a bit to cover there as well. Boot space in the sedan version of the Mazda 6 is actually pretty good. You'll see the figure on your screen now, and it is quite a wide opening as well. So like most Japanese cars, it's probably been designed so you can easily load in a set of golf clubs. And yeah, there's a fair bit of depth to the boot space as well. Under the floor, you will find a space saver spare wheel as well, which is good to know. You get that in the sedan and the wagon. Now, if you want the most practical model, you should buy the wagon because it does have a bigger boot. You'll see that figure on your screen now. And obviously it's got the bigger opening as well. So it's easier to load bigger things if you've got family stuff that you want to put in your wagon. The interior of this 20th anniversary model does feel a bit more special than the standard versions of the Mazda 6. However, it's going to appeal more to a certain type of buyer, I think. It's got this tan Napa leather finish, which I actually think looks really nice. There's also this embossed finish up here for the 20th anniversary emblem as well. And it's got, I think it's called Laganu or something like that. It's a synthetic suede finish, so no suedes were killed to create this finish, but it is kind of interesting looking and interesting feeling, and I think it's going to appeal to a certain type of buyer, maybe someone who's a bit older and likes those sorts of finishes. Maybe they've got that color couch at home or something like that. But for me, I actually think I prefer one of the lower grade trims, but that's just personal preference, obviously. Now, speaking of personal preference, this screen, the MZD Connect system, which is very old now, is very old. It doesn't necessarily feel as up-to-date or as upmarket as the rest of the car does. And that's a bit of a concern, considering there are so many people now who look at the screen as one of the biggest decision makers when they're buying a new car. Look, it still has wireless Apple CarPlay, wired Apple CarPlay, wired Android Auto, and it's got a reasonably easy interactiveness to it. It does have a rotary dial controller down here so you can move around the screen. There's also touchscreen functionality when you're at a standstill. So that's something that it does do a little bit better than some of those newer models with the bigger screen. However, I don't think it's the best thing. Anyway, there's a lot more to this cabin than just the screen, obviously. You've got a lot of really nice controls. There's buttons and dials and knobs, and I love all of that sort of stuff because it makes it just easier to interact with the car. You don't have to read the manual to figure out how to go through certain menus or anything like that. It's all here. It's all very, very easy to get used to, and it looks nice too. And obviously, you've got a part digital dashboard as well. It looks kind of out of date these days, but at least there is all the info that you'd need. A nice steering wheel, leather lined, and when it comes to practicality stuff, a couple of cup holders. You've got a wireless phone charger in some grades as well. There's a covered center console bin with a couple of USB ports in there as well, and bottle holders in the doors too. This grade obviously gets the sunroof and the dark headliner. You know, I don't love dark headliners, but at least it feels pretty airy in here because you've got this tan finish down below as well that lightens the cabin a little bit. Now let's check out the back row and see if it's a nice place too. The backseat experience in here is pretty good. Sitting behind my own driving position, I've got heaps of leg room. Well, not heaps, but enough knee room, enough foot room, a little bit of a headroom issue. If you are taller than I am at 6 foot, you might find that that is a little bit tight, and also it's because there's the sunroof intruding in here. The wagon feels a little bit more airy in the back row, so that might matter to you. However, it does have less legroom in the back row because it's got the shorter wheelbase issue. Now, it's also got some pretty good storage things in the back here. You've got a flip down armrest with cup holders, and that's where you'll find your secret buttons. These heated outboard seat buttons are in there as well. USB charging in there too, so that's a nice little handy spot. Don't get that in all the grades though. You get rear seat air vents in all the grades, however. There's also some pretty good storage. You've got a couple of map pockets on the backs of the seats. You've got bottle holders in the doors. When it comes to fitting child seats, ISOFIX in the window seats and 3 top tethers as well. So if you're looking at this as a family car, whether you're choosing the sedan or the wagon, it should hit the mark for you. So I've already mentioned there's the G25 model, the 2.5 litre non-turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine. It does have modest power and torque outputs. I mean, they're okay, but it isn't necessarily the firecracker in this range. The one you want to pick is the G35, that's this one here. It's the turbocharged 4-cylinder version of this car. It's got a lot more power and torque and a little bit more power for this updated version as well. And both it and the entry-level version are front-wheel drive with a 6-speed auto as standard. If you're expecting big changes for the drive experience in the Mazda 6, you're going to be disappointed. I mean, there is an extra 3 kilowatts of power for the turbocharged models. Not that you'd really notice it. Apparently it does make it a little bit more zesty when you're overtaking, but wow, it's hard to tell without driving them back to back. And even if you did, you probably wouldn't pick it. It is still a very good turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, however, but it is sending all of its grunt, that 173 kilowatts and 420 Newton meters, through the front tires, so you can actually squeal those tires a little bit if you press hard on the throttle going out of a corner, for instance. But it is very much up for the task, and it's a suitable engine for this application. Much better than the non-turbo engine, in my opinion. I wouldn't bother with that one. I just think that it's a bit gutless and not the most refined or luxurious. If you're buying a 6 as a luxury-ish model, then yeah, you should be buying the turbo version. 6-speed auto does a good job as well, and there's a sport mode if you want to engage yourself in a little bit more fun driving. And I will say that this turbo engine is a pretty quiet operator as well. You only really hear it when you really get stuck into it, and there's not too much wind or road noise to contend with either. The steering is, as you would expect, pretty much Mazda style, with a pretty good amount of feel through the wheel and nice weighting and directness to the way that it behaves on the road as well. I'm driving the sedan model at the moment, and it does have a slightly more enjoyable ride characteristic to it. It's just got a longer wheelbase than the wagon, so it does feel just a touch more settled on the road. It still has a bit of a firmness to it. You kind of feel like it's pitter-pattering a little bit on the road surface. Obviously, it does have pretty big wheels and tyres, 19s, so it is feeling a lot of those little bumps because of those pretty slim sidewalls on the low-profile tyres. But I don't think it's a deal breaker in terms of hardness when it comes to the suspension. The drive experience is still a pretty good attribute of the Mazda 6, even all these years down the track. Let's talk efficiency. So the G25, the non-turbocharged versions, have an official figure of 7 litres per 100 kilometres. That's the combined cycle figure, so what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. And if you choose the turbo version, you're getting more power and more torque, but also a higher fuel use figure. 7.6 litres per 100 is the official number for it. And if you're wondering what I've seen across this launch drive, where I haven't necessarily been doing what I'd usually do with a test car, you'll see that on your screen now. Tell me what you think. Is that good enough? The Mazda 6 has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2018, but it has been updated over the years with additional safety features, and the 2023 grade does add some stuff too. Now, as standard, you get AEB with pedestrian detection. You don't get cyclist or junction detection in this model, which might matter to you, but there's also lane keeping assistance and blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, and a reversing camera as standard on all grades as well. All models come with adaptive cruise control as well, and in the top spec versions of this updated range, it also includes a traffic jam assist function, so it'll actually stop and start the car for you if you are in that sort of traffic snarl. There's 6 airbags fitted as well, dual front, front side, and full length curtain coverage. Mazda offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for the Mazda 6, and you also get a 5-year cap price servicing plan. Service intervals are 12 months or 15,000 Ks. You'll see on screen now the pricing for the turbocharged and non-turbocharged versions of this car. There's a bit of a difference, obviously. However, all versions come with 5 years of roadside assist included as well. It still looks great, but it is feeling its age a little bit in a few ways. So I don't know whether it's going to be right for everyone, but if you do want a mid-size sedan or wagon and you want it to have lots of features and look great, the Mazda 6 still could be the right car for you. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please do hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell to keep up to date with everything they've got coming. There's lots more videos on their way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.